Folks, it's time we had a conversation about Tencent, the company that never seems to go away because it owns a piece of everything you consume. Yes, you. We've been asking ourselves here at Inside Gaming, could Tencent take over all of gaming? I don't know what that looks like exactly, but considering their enormous portfolio, it seems like a possibility. For the uninitiated, Tencent is a multi-billion dollar company loosely/closely based in China. They've become a household name in gaming due to a number of high-profile investments in hugely popular games, which we'll get to. Yes, the company that forces me to say the phrase mega corporation is in the news again. And then they were back out of the news, but still there. And then they came back again. GamesIndustry.biz, the site with the greatest distance between name silliness and quality of reporting, posted an article early Monday headlined, "Tencent is starting a AAA studio in North America." At least that's as much as I was able to get from the URL, which now goes nowhere. The article was removed relatively quickly after posting, and the only evidence I found at first of this supposed studio was a tweet from industry veteran designer Scott Warner. Unlike the .biz article, Scott's tweet remains up. The tweet in question referred to his new role as the studio director of a new AAA operation in North America for Tencent. So, okay, wait. Is there a new studio? Well, not really. Sort of. .biz released a corrected article with updated info, but not before industry analyst and hopefully one day friend of the show, Daniel Ahmad, maybe friend of mine, shed some light on the original article's removal and what exactly is going on with Warner and Tencent. Yes, Scott Warner is coming on as a studio director, and yes, it's a new operation, but it's not a new studio. Kinda just semantics at this point, but it's an important distinction. The Tencent-operated studio referenced in his tweet is already established. Teamy. Is it Teamy? Let's find out. The Tencent-operated studio referenced in Warner's tweet is the already established Teamy Studios, a mostly Chinese-based company focused on mobile titles like the Call of Duty mobile game. Mobile titles make up a huge slice of Tencent revenues, but they've made a goal of branching into both console markets and North America. Regardless of whether the studio is brand new or what the studio is called, Tencent seems to be making good on those goals. Even without previously having a AAA studio, Tencent has a disconcerting hold on a serious portion of the industry. We talk about this a lot, about how Tencent seems to have a hand in everything. But they do. They really do. That's why you're here. In games alone, they have their fingers in enough pies to make me suspicious of any dessert for fear Tencent's billionaire CEO's thumbs have beaten me to it. So the big ones. Tencent fully owns Riot Games, and were majority stockholders before that since 2011. They also own 40% of Epic Games, which for some reason seems to incense gamers far more than any other investment. It's in part what fueled the Chinese spyware conspiracies swirling around the Epic Games Store. Then again, anything connected to the Epic Games Store is a level 5 gamer fest. Also, if you find yourself having strong feelings about a PC launcher, maybe log off for a couple hours. Grab your good mask, go for a walk. You'll thank me. Or not. Don't tweet at me. In addition to holding a significant share in dumb baby game for babies Fortnite, they also own 11.5% of Bluehole, the devs behind grown-up cool game for cool gamers, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Tencent holds the publishing rights to both Battle Royale titles in China, so they're competing with themselves. Stop paying yourself! Stop paying yourself! You look so dumb. I thank my stars I would never live in a country where that happens. Tencent has become the de facto route for Western game publishers to enter Chinese markets. They provide these services for Activision Blizzard and Nintendo, to name a couple. Yes, that's right, even Nintendo, the last bastion of stubborn individuality, couldn't pass up the opportunity to capitalize on the fantastic profits to be had in the Chinese gaming population. Tencent also owns small stakes in Activision Blizzard, as well as Ubisoft, after helping both companies ward off a hostile takeover by Vivendi. The stipulations of the Ubisoft deal apparently prevent Tencent from staging its own hostile takeover, but that's not really been how Tencent operates. They have more of a kill 'em with kindness approach, or in this case, kill 'em with an Olympic swimming pool full of money approach. You probably could kill someone with an Olympic swimming pool's worth of money, right? I mean, the sheer metric tonnage, the weight. And to continue the water-adjacent analogies, these are the big fish. There are plenty of minnows swimming around in the oversized aquarium Tencent CEO Pony Ma definitely has in the lavish skyrise penthouse he also definitely has. Smaller investments and acquisitions, like the companies behind Black Desert Online and Warhammer Vermintide 2. Most recently, it was reported ownership of the troubled Most recently, it was reported ownership of the troubled game System Shock 3's website was transferred to Tencent. A common thread I've noticed in researching Tencent is their insistence that they're just the money. They don't interfere with the creative output of the studios they've gotten involved with. Come to daddy for dollars, and you make your toy. You know, good guy, we're not Vivendi, we're your friends Tencent. Sure, that's nice, but they did once undermine their own company, Riot Games, with a mobile ripoff of League of Legends. And also, don't trust corporations. They don't have to do what they said they would, and oftentimes will completely about-face on their word. It's happened before, it'll happen again, it'll keep happening until the sun dies. Plus, Tencent is apparently keen on leveraging their partnership with Nintendo to make games using Nintendo's trademark characters, which doesn't happen if you know anything about Nintendo. And beyond gaming, Tencent has invested in everything else. They operate China's most popular messaging and more app, WeChat, and have a piece of everything else entertainment related, recently producing films like Bumblebee, Venom, Terminator Dark Fate, and the upcoming Top Gun sequel. Last month, they completed a 10% acquisition of Universal Music Group, whose parent company is Vivendi, because like 4 companies own the world. And that was a big get. That's like the world's biggest label, or one of. I don't know. Don't fact check me. The public opinion in the games industry around Tencent is hard to nail down, ranging from just ambivalence to full vein-popping rage, probably because gaming is an enormous field of diverse interests and players, the loudest of which are typically not representative of everyone else. The incensed gamer. This screenshot in r/games captures that fairly well. Criticism seems to center around vague claims of censorship in the games Tencent owns some or all of. However, past instances of censorship have had more to do with the Chinese government than they have with the company, like the brief removal of violence and sexual content from Rainbow Six Siege, or when Activision Blizzard, say it with me, banned pro Hearthstone player Blitzchung for voicing support for the Hong Kong protesters live on stream. We all know the story. One of those decisions was reversed. The other was pasted over with a teary apology and a Diablo 4 trailer.
I am sorry. So what exactly?
Tencent and the Chinese government are difficult to separate, though, when Tencent is the gatekeeper of Chinese audiences. Technically, Tencent isn't a Chinese company. They control a large portion of local Chinese profits, but they're incorporated in the Cayman Islands. I wonder why. A US government official recently went on record as saying Tencent could not be trusted on account of its alleged close ties to the Chinese government, calling it and other Chinese companies tools of China's authoritarian regime. If you too are hesitant to put too much stock in the opinions of the US government, here's an article from last week detailing Tencent's alleged undisclosed surveillance of non-Chinese WeChat users in order to further refine censorship in China. WeChat, an app that has 1 billion global users, not all in China. Cool! So whether it's due to US government suspicions, the fact that Tencent is a staggeringly big company with too much power, or their past actions involving, well, surveillance, the company is surrounded by an air of general distrust. Besides, all those things can be summed up under an allegiance to money more than anything else. If censorship pays, and it does for them, Tencent is going to further that agenda. And there is an ass's load of cash in console gaming. Not as much as mobile, but Tencent's been there, done that, and will continue to be and do that evermore. Despite all the confusion, Scott Warner is no small get. To return to the initial story. Remember? His design portfolio includes Halo and Battlefield. Bringing him on as a studio director is telling of Tencent's intentions for expanding teaming. Timai? Warner also joins another gaming talent recently sourced by the mega corporation, Ken Imaizumi, a longtime producer who worked alongside Hideo Kojima. Imaizumi worked at Konami on every Metal Gear Solid game since 2001 before making the jump to Kojima Productions as the corporate director for Death Stranding. He joined Tencent's Amsterdam-based European operation recently, which is focused on identifying investment opportunities and expanding WeChat. Finally, a means to surveil the Dutch. So Imaizumi and Warner probably won't have too much professional crossover, but two gets like that in short succession rightfully set off some alarms. Like all big companies, Tencent's plans are obscured behind a never-ending series of acquisitions, investments, and divisions, but all signs point to a concerted effort to capture North American gaming markets, perhaps in the same way they dominated the Chinese market. Signs like this direct quote from a Tencent staffer in reference to the Nintendo partnership. What we want is to expand from China, and one target is console game players in the US and Europe. We hope to create console games with Nintendo characters and learn the essence of making console games from Nintendo engineers. Oh, well, that was pretty clear sign. And that's investigative journalism. All right, so the question isn't whether they will do so, but rather, how will the current big game makers in this market react? Will the US and Europe allow Tencent even more opportunities to compete with itself? And this time in a country with far fewer restrictions than China, like playtime curfews on children. A country that adores gigantic corporations that buy everything. I don't know. But if any mega corporation has the means, it's probably Tencent. I mean, God, we love big companies. Facebook, AT&T, hello corporate daddy. Oh boy, lots of them. Anyway, be on the lookout for some more AAA Tencent originals, and in the meantime, stay tuned to Inside Gaming.
It's Treason Tuesday! Facing Nintendo betraying us and selling out to China just like every other company basically anywhere else.
China hasn't historically been the friendliest country to video game consoles or basic human rights, but Nintendo is hoping to change that, the console part that'll make them a lot of cha-ching. Not the human rights stuff, which is boring and not related to